This is an idealized 3D model for a double variable framework that complies with the proportionality and continuity principles. This video is for visualization purposes only. There are two diagrams on the screen. The left diagram is reproduced in the judgment as figure number 4. The right diagram is exactly the same, except that the arrows and axes labels have been removed. I begin with figure number 4, the left diagram. There are three different axes, x, y, and z. The horizontal x-axis represents harm. The inward-facing y-axis represents culpability. The vertical z-axis represents the indicative starting sentence. Harm and culpability are the independent variables that exist on an increasing scale of severity, while the indicative starting sentence is the dependent variable. To fully appreciate the 3D nature of the two diagrams, I will rotate the diagram on the right. As you can see, regardless of the way in which the diagram is rotated, there is always going to be an upward sloping surface with a positive gradient. This upward sloping surface reflects the entire range of indicative starting sentences. It can be seen that these sentences increase smoothly and continuously as each of the two independent variables increase in magnitude. This surface is made up of many different points, each of which represents a single combination of harm and culpability. Returning now to figure number 4. Each of the numerous yellow dots seen here represents a single unique combination of harm and culpability. Each yellow dot has its own specified level of severity and corresponds to an indicative starting sentence. The indicative starting sentences increase until they reach this maximum value as represented by the flat top of the 3D surface. This represents the maximum sentence prescribed by Parliament. The flat top is expanding to represent the fact that while either one or both independent variables tend to infinity, the indicative starting sentence remains capped at the statutorily prescribed maximum. In such a situation, even if one independent variable remains at a very low value, for example, very low culpability, but the other independent variable is at a very high value, for example, a very extreme level of harm approaching infinite harm, the indicative starting sentence can technically approach and may even reach the statutory maximum. This is represented by the overhanging surface when culpability is near zero, but where harm tends towards infinity. This 3D surface can also be divided into a series of different lines, with each line joining all the points of the same vertical height measured along the vertical z-axis. This would be akin to contour lines of equal elevation in a topographic map, and each of these lines of equal elevation on a 3D surface will represent a different indicative starting sentence. The higher the elevation line, the greater the indicative starting sentence on the 3D model as represented by the line. For illustration purposes, I have drawn out just two of the numerous lines of different indicative starting sentences as depicted in red. This is the first line. This is the second line. These are elevation lines of equal sentences because the indicative starting sentence is the same along each and every point on each of those red lines. Each part of the red line is at the same vertical height. In other words, while each combination of the two independent variables must yield a single indicative sentence, certain combinations may yield the same indicative starting sentence because they result in offences of the same overall severity. To end off, Figure 4 represents an idealized and general model of a double variable sentencing framework that complies with the principles of continuity and proportionality.